This would be a perfect place to put Stephen A. Smith. Stay off the weed.
You're now listening to D&D live on demand.
What up, world? Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Command, a D&D football podcast. As always, in the driver's seat, you got your man Darren, your D.H. Williams, myself, and then, of course, my partner in crime, Darren, my man D-Mitty. D-Mitty, what's up, bro?
Feeling good, feeling great. How you been, Brody?
Hey, man, I'm good, man. We got a big old fat W in the win column when the Commanders beat the Cardinals 20-16. While it may not have been all that we liked, it counts. The ugly wins count. And as somebody who's been ugly all his life, I know that even the ugly wins count. Okay. Hey, we don't win tonight, man. But of course, look, man, we couldn't do this episode every week, man. I'm trying to give y'all illustrious guests, man. Okay. We said, look, man, we got to go back to the archives and grab our good friend, our good buddy. And I'm going to bring him up right now. I ain't even going to I'm not going to take too long. I'm going to bring him up right now. Our buddy, Mike Callow of ESPN 630. Mike Callow. I ain't gonna call you by your whole name. That's professional. Hello. It's like, Mike, what's up, bro?
How are you, Mike?
Right.
Or should I say Michael?
Don't do Michael. That's reserved for the parents.
Right.
I mean, that's family. But I mean, y'all are family. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. I'm good, y'all. How are you doing?
Hey, man, great, man. Feeling good off this W. You know, while it wasn't what we expected, okay, as long as we ended up with the W, that's what counts. And of course, you know, that's why we're here. So we had to drop another episode, talk about the win, and then preview the Denver Broncos matchup, which will be in week 2, which will be a good time. But before we do anything, let's get some business out the way. I want to remind you that if you're watching this, you are a fan of the podcast, and we greatly appreciate it. So all you can do for us is make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a friend. And if you feel so inclined, leave us a 5-star review. You give us your 5 seconds of fame. That's it. That's all. And of course, we always appreciate you for locking in, tuning in. You see our Twitter names, or is it Twitter or X? What is it? Is it Twitter?
It's called Twitter. Twitter.
Yeah, it's always going to be Twitter.
X Twitter?
No, X Twitter. We can't say X Twitter, bro. That might be a whole nother demographic we don't want to go down that path. What time is it? Is it after 12? Maybe it's no, but
don't
man,
let Elon win. Don't let Elon win. Just say Twitter.
No.
Hit us up on Twitter, man. You see our Twitter usernames are there, man. Hit us up, man. You know, you got some comments about the show. Want to see something different, man? Hit us up. But of course, we're always here. Want to bring you the best Commanders content. So we're here, man. And before we get started, man, I got to tell y'all something that happened last week. Okay. Last week, I had the pleasure of going downtown and visiting my buddy Mike Callow at the ESPN 630 studios while him and Bram were broadcasting the episode live, man. So first off, Mike, I appreciate you for having me down there, man. Let me check you guys out and work, man. And let me tell y'all something, man. Mike is you'd have thought Mike was a DJ, man, out there ricking and wagging, like pressing button, like sending the break, everything, man. Mike, man, they don't tell the people out there who they just see the podcast, right? They see the video or they hear it on the radio. They don't know what goes on behind the scenes, man. Tell them, bro, how difficult it is sometimes.
I mean, I'm used to it at this point.
Yeah,
so I always tell people I'm the worst person to watch because I've just learned how to do it. And for me, I always am of the philosophy of best ability is availability.
Yes, indeed.
And so you saw it live where I'm a producer, I'm on air, and I do updates all at the same time, which wasn't always the case with anybody in this town, but now more and more people are doing it. But I've just learned how to do it all at the same time pretty much, you know, and I don't know. I put it all together. You even saw when I didn't even have an update ready and I just kind of did it on the fly for 60 seconds. So, yeah.
So, D-Mitty, let me tell you something. I asked Mike, because after I saw him do the update, I was like, Mike, you got like bullet points or script or something like that? He was like, nah, man, I keep these tabs open and I see, and sure enough, like you go to I was looking, it was the day Kelsey had, they reported Kelsey had got hurt. So, yep. Mike, you know, turn on that voice. The NFL reports out of Kansas City that Travis Kelsey I was like, yo, my man Mike is going. And then on the bump tonight in the Orioles game, I was like, yes, we here. I loved it. But that's only a part of the story. So then Bram is like, hey, I hear you can do a Dion. And I was like, oh, yes, I'm the master of many impressions, from wrestling to sports professionals, everything. So I got on live and did the Dion. And that started a 3-day stretch of just a whirlwind of just stuff, man. Got on, did Coach Prime. I did Coach Prime, baby. We did it live on the air. ESPN 630, baby. Right here on Breaking Command. Like we did all that on the air. And then went ahead and we went ahead. Hold on one second. We went ahead and did it on 92.7 in Charlotte. They called and was like, hey, can you get on with Matt Rule? We got a fake Matt Rule. Can you get on with him? I was like, yeah, of course, man. You know, I can do it. So setup did that. And just like all week, man, it's just been crazy, man. I booked 2 gigs last week for people hearing me on the radio. Like, we going up, baby. We going up. So, Mike, I gotta give you your flowers, man. I gotta tell you how much I appreciate you, man.
Hey, man, you did that too. Don't sell yourself short.
You know, that's true. I did do the impressions myself. So
A few moments later.
D-Mitty, I know week 1 was against the Cardinals, but what is this? This is a wardrobe change? What's up with the Cardinal red shirt, bro? Middle of the episode. What happened?
Middle of the episode, man. So connection went out. So I grabbed my Pepsi, thinking I'm just gonna have a quick sip of Pepsi, and I'm sorry. I had a boo boo.
Hey, shout out to Pepsi, man. Definitely have your people call my people. We can hook that up, man. We gotta add
sponsorships are always cool.
Always welcome. Always welcome. And speaking of sponsorship, FedEx Field was going crazy this past week against the Cardinals for the week 1 matchup. As you guys know, I frequent the games, but week 1 I did not. I was definitely tired because I had to work. But our man Mike Callow from Beauty Island was there for week 1.
Don't let the secret out.
Right.
Secret out.
That's it. That's the last time you're going to hear it, guys. That's the last time. Mike, before we get into the actual game itself, I want you to give the fans of the Breaking Command just the FedEx fan experience of how it was this past week at the game with your experience there, man.
I'll just start you off how my day went. I got to the parking lot at 8 a.m. So I was hitting it early and pause. But either way, FedEx Field, I'm gonna actually commend the workers there. I was most worried about this is the first sellout in God knows how long, probably like 2012, not including a couple playoff games after that year. In and out of the stadium, super easy. Concession stand lines were all moving. The fan experience was good. Like, D, you've been to games the last couple years. Honestly, FedEx Field, yeah, the stadium isn't great, but the actual experience, it's been fine. Like, there's been no real complaints by me for this stadium. And for a sellout crowd where, like, I got worried when I heard about the Beyonce concert, right? Like sellout on a sellout type of crowd where there were gates that were closed, the weather got messy, and even I was like, oh man, if this is like what they're doing for this, like what's a sellout crowd week 1 what's gonna happen? It was fine, man. Concourses were a little packed, but what else are you gonna do with a sellout like that? Fan experience was good, and honestly, the weirdest part to me was after going to games for a couple years here after the pandemic was not having an empty seat next to me or behind me, or having a half empty section. Like my season tickets are in 404, 405, like right on the aisle.
Yeah.
It was just a packed house. And I guess it was just, that was fun for me that it was finally like, it felt like the fan base was back. If the game was a little bit better, I think the party would have gone a little harder. But all in all, like, I don't know, give me like a solid, like 8 out of 10 fan experience. There wasn't, any major complaints from me. I'm also, though, I'm really easygoing and low key. Yeah. And once we start playing in between, the hash marks, I don't really care about much else. And it was fine for me.
Absolutely. And Mike, I was listening to you and Bram yesterday on ESPN 630, free plug right there. I was listening to you on the drive home, and you mentioned that one aspect that was overlooked was the traffic getting out.
Yes.
And I know that you said that they had closed one lane on 495 and people were able to get out with ease, man. Like,
yes.
What, like last year, week 1 last year, it took me an hour to get out of the stadium. And are you saying it just took you, how long did it take you to get out, really?
Oh, I mean, so here's the thing. Like, I was with a big group anyway, so once they won, we hung around for a little bit. But where we tailgate at it does take a little bit of time, but we did notice, like, oh, this is actually clearing out a little bit faster. They closed the right lane on 495 for the, I forget if it's technically the entrance or the exit, but either way, they closed that off to let people get on faster. And I'm telling you, Bright Seat Road was clear within 40 minutes. I mean,
Wow.
and I was more like, I'm not going to try to put this all on Dan, but like, how did no one in the front office for the last 25 years, bro, figure out to just ask, how do we get the traffic pattern better
I
here
was
to
literally
get the
just
fans
thinking that.
out? I feel like I told Bram we need to start this is off the air, like we need to start like a class action lawsuit. Like, have you wasted your time in the FedEx Field parking lot because you might be entitled to compensation? Like, that's how I feel. Like, how many days of my life have I wasted sitting on Bright Seat Road trying to get home? So yeah, it's like equal parts. Wow, this is awesome. And like, wait a minute, what have we been doing here for a freaking quarter century? Like, I don't know. I was equal parts amazed and pissed off. So
Need
it
to
took
call
one day and
Ashcraft
the new owner.
man. Need to call Ashcraft and Jarrell or somebody,
I
man.
know, right, exactly.
No, man, that's awesome. And you know what? I feel like that goes to the whole holistic FedEx Field fan experience where it's not just about what happens from 1 to 4, right? It's about what happens 8 o'clock in the morning when you get there, being able to set up and tailgate, get in and out for parking, being able to have the space to really hang out and enjoy the ambiance of the pregame, and then getting into the stadium, being able to walk freely through the stadium. I heard the concession lines were faster. I heard that it was easier to kind of walk about. Like you said, it was crowded, but still easy to kind of walk about. And then the fan experience, getting into the game, being able to sit next to people with the same color jersey on as you, okay,
Right.
and having no space. You know what I mean? And enjoying the actual fan experience. And then getting the dub, right? Okay, getting the dub, getting out of the building, and actually, the fan experience extended through there. How do we get people home faster? Because if they have a great holistic experience, they might want to come back and spend some more money with us. So I think that goes to truly, man. I think Jason Wright, and along with new ownership, has really pushed the fan experience and really tried to make it a better thing. Go ahead, Dimitri.
No, I feel like what you guys have put in a nutshell in my mind is that it just seemed like Dan was, I don't want to use the term cash poor, but he didn't know where to allocate his money as far as the investment of the
Have the
team.
right people to say, hey, and this is basic focus group stuff, Mike. And in your profession, I know you deal with that. You know what I mean? Being able to say, hey, what do you think about this program? Asking people that it may not be for this demographic, but it's all different types of people, and say, hey, what do you think about this? And really going to people and saying, basic surveys. What is the worst part of coming to our game other than winning or losing? Right? Okay. Cost, the bathrooms are dirty, too much traffic. Like, it's asking those questions and truly asking those questions with the thought process to actually want to fix it, right? Like,
Right,
and a
right.
lot of times I feel like with the past regime, a lot of stuff was disingenuous. Like, you would ask about it, but nothing would really happen. So I think now this kind of like with bringing the fans back in the new era, like they're really kind of being genuine about some of these fan experience things. Like even back in training camp, having all those people there, those people had a great time. We talked about it a couple episodes ago with Deuce, where Deuce was there a bunch of times during the summer, and he had a great time. It was packed, and you saw the fans love, the players love having the fans there. So it's, I'm telling you, man, it's along with winning, being able to get the fans back in the building. You might give the team a little more leeway when they play games like they played on Sunday that had you kind of scratching your head. And we just gonna get into it.
To
I'm gonna
weigh in one more time on
do
the
it.
traffic thing too with Dan. So like, here's my thing with Dan. Dan didn't build FedEx. He
Yeah.
inherited FedEx, and I don't blame him for the most part on it. But you know what? It did occur to me, like, bro, how did you not at least try to improve it? Like that didn't take much. You could have made one phone call to PG County to get the cops to help you out or whoever. Like,
Yeah.
you know what? Like, I actually never blamed Dan for FedEx, but now I'm like, it is your fault for some of the fan experience stuff because all of a sudden, day one, we have improvements. Like, all right, man, like maybe you actually really didn't care about the fans because that's how it feels right now.
You know,
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
go
in a nutshell, it seemed like it was the relationship. So with
ahead.
Jason coming in and Jason building a relationship, and then Josh and Jason having the same mindset coming from the same, I guess, business background, they were able to get get in contact with the right people, as you was alluding to earlier. DH, like make a one phone call to this person, and you understand how to get your fans out. So it just seemed like he lost the relationships within the organization and around the DMV area, and it's soured to the point now. It's the new ownership is just it's the feeling is amazing.
I mean, you look at, even with this group right here, right? It's all about relationships, right? Me, Mike comes on often. I text Mike, we talk all the time. It's relationships. Being able to come on his show, got me a look at another show in Charlotte, got me another gig. It's those relationships where you saying if somebody texts Mike is like, man, I wish somebody could do a Dion impression. Mike, like, I know a guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just relationships. And then it's about being able to work with people and wanting to work with people. And that's the thing. It seems like now with this new regime, you got Maryland, DC, and Virginia all wanting to work and wanting to get back with the Commanders. They all want that because that's a big deal, bro. Being able to have a stadium in your city. And I think it's and I know it's big for Maryland to keep us here, right? DC wants us back. But I know Virginia would go crazy if they could find a way to get, the Commanders to build their stadium there, maybe something overlooking the harbor on the opposite side. Like, they would love that. So it's like being able to get those people back in the building to want to have those relationships and conversations, like, that's a big deal. And you've seen it here already that they're all about repairing relationships that have been broken for years, regardless if we know the details of Dan's relationships with those people and with the fans. They're really working to try to repair all those relationships. And, one key to the game on Sunday is the relationship, whether repairing the relationship with the offensive line, because it looked kind of tough. Of course, I'm gonna try to weave. I'm gonna weave it in there. I'm gonna get it all together. But I think the main thing, the offensive line, that's kind of my key. But it's not about me. It's about y'all. Mike, let's go to you first, man. You were there live in person. Of course, you've seen the game. I'm pretty sure you probably watched it after the fact. What were some of the main takeaways from this past week against the Arizona Cardinals?
So my takeaway after watching the game one more time, after being there in person, mainly when I walked away after the game in person, you know how this is too, watching it. It's totally different when you watch it on TV afterwards than when you've been sitting in the stands.
Absolutely.
But I thought the offensive line walking away from it was like terrible, like so bad. They were the problem. And then after the rewatch, it was kind of more of a mixed bag. Like, they had their good moments, they had their bad moments. Hal had his good moments and his bad moments, which included holding onto the ball a little too long a couple times, but also getting straight up sacked. And you know what? For an offensive line that basically didn't play the entire preseason as a unit together because Leno was hurt for most of the time, I thought it was exactly what we would expect. This unit and the linebackers are the two big red flags on this team, and it was an entirely mixed bag. And when you come down to an individual effort, Leno got bull rushed a couple times, which I don't like, but Leno is who he is too. He's kind of the epitome of this offensive line, right? Like, I think we use the word mid as a insult these days, but he's medium. Like, we just know that he's not the best, left tackle in the game. He had his moments. I'll circle Sam Cosmi had a great game. He was kicking dudes' asses left and right, and it finally looks like he's comfortable. I'll take that all day long. The rest of the unit, Wiley, all those guys, they looked solid, but they all had their moments. I think this is just all comes down to chemistry. And for the first game against a team that doesn't have a lot of stars, I'll take it. It was fine. If you look across the board too, just because I know people are going to be mad at the offensive line, go look across the NFL. Week 1 was a mess offensively for everybody. Not a lot of points unless you're the Dolphins or the Chargers, and the Cowboys taking advantage of, some Giants mistakes. But for the most part, it was fine for the offensive line. I think we could ask both sides, including for the offensive line and Hal. Hal could get rid of the ball faster a few more times. The offensive line could give him a little more time a couple of times. But as they play more under this system and with Bieniemy, everybody's going to get more comfortable. So I give me a B- on the offensive line.
Good stuff. Good stuff. D-Mitty, before you go, I want to remind everybody, if you like what you're hearing right now, you like our guest, Mike Callow. We had George Carmi on. Of course, we had Deuce from Red Zone in the Lab. We had Anthony Armstrong in the building. If you loving what you're hearing and you like us, do us a favor and just subscribe right here to the podcast, man. You get this Commanders content every week right here on Breaking Command and D&D Football Podcast. D-Mitty, I know you're subscribed to the podcast. Who would you feel about the game this past week, man?
Hey, I got all my Gmail accounts linked to the Breaking Command. Hey, man. Hey, man, I just love Breaking Command so much, man. But to me, I think you hit it right on the head too, Mike, as far as the O line play. And I was going to give him a B, like a close to, I mean, I just feel like Leno to me he did better than I anticipated. So maybe I set the bar, maybe a little bit low for him. But then when it came to the running game, I think Brian Robinson looked real smooth, to me, the way he was running. And I feel like, the receivers are doing their thing, man. They are constantly, you know, getting separation. Terry McLaurin getting, PIs and moving, I mean, helping moving the ball because at the beginning of the game, it just seemed like they did have a hard time kind of moving the ball down the field with Sam Howell, as you were saying, Mike, you know, taking his time because there was a play where Deami went in motion and he streaked up the sideline and he looked at him and he second guessed when he probably could just put it out there and that would have been either a big play or a touchdown. So I think Sam with his decision making, the defense, I didn't really, you know, I didn't really see what I wanted to see, but at the same time, they held them the under, 20 points, which is what you should do in the NFL to win, right? So all in all, I give the whole overall game, I'll probably give it a B minus, like the whole team and how the game output came.
I say this, man. It was difficult for me to watch the game. It really was. As you know here, I'm a Sam House stan, right? But truthfully, I genuinely want him to be successful. So I live and die with every play. Those dirty ass Cardinals that was hitting them late, bro.
Bounty Gate Part 2.
I know my blood pressure went up for like 30 seconds. It spiked because I was agitated and it looked intentional. But I love that the guys came to his defense. You know what I mean? They got it. They had his back. But I mean, he took some lumps. He took some hits, and with the league, I mean, you're going to have some bad plays. Like that fumble was bad and it was on him. You got to protect the football, right? But the interception he threw, that pass was tipped. You know what I'm saying? People are saying that was a bad throw. He just threw it right. It was a tip ball, right? It was barely tipped, but it was a tip ball. It changed the trajectory of the ball. So, like, I think that's what we're going to have with him in the interim as he gets more comfortable with the offense, as he gets more comfortable with starts. This is his second start. He's undefeated as a starting quarterback, okay? This is his second start, and we got to remember that. But I think he's earned a little more leeway with the fan base. Like, I think the fan base likes him, right? He has and I swore I wouldn't mention this person's name, but I will. He has the Heineke flair that, people wanted to support Taylor Heineke, no matter how good or how bad he was. But with this, he's actually good. You know what I mean? So I think he's gonna get better. And I think the fans are willing to kind of, wait and see. And Mike, to your point, this week 1 was a mess. Nobody, I mean, the Giants look like they didn't even show up, bro. Like they just, and I think they were already defeated, going down 14, like they were already done. But then to still have Dallas roll up 40, like it was crazy. You saw, Aaron Rodgers going down last night, you know what I mean? And that game where it looked like Buffalo should have taken the game, Buffalo should have smoked them because they couldn't do anything offense. Buffalo barely got it to overtime and lost in OT. Now they're talking about, should Josh Allen be mentioned as one of the top quarterbacks? I don't know. It's questionable. And I mean, of course, week 1, you overreact. And it was fans, and D-Media, I texted you during the game. Fans midway through the game, like, same old stuff. We gonna be this again. And Mike, you even said something too. Mike, I saw it on Instagram.
I was sarcastic though. I do want to say that. It was heavy sarcasm. I said same team, different owner. Because come on, I mean that was a typical week 1 performance. It didn't matter who the owner was.
I was responding to that story like I know Mike didn't say that Mike is supposed to be a good guy. Not like that.
Hey, but you got to understand, man. When you anticipate the new offensive coordinator and these new shiny pieces to come in and build something new, the outcome still look the same. Like I said, that first quarter to me, I mean, forget sputtering. They were just like, I can't even think of the word. It was just, it didn't seem like they knew how to move the ball down the field without penalties. And then when EB adjusted, which I will say, his adjustment in this game here looks far beyond how Scott Turner made adjustments last year when he went to the run game at the right time and let Sam Howell kind of take a deep breath for a minute and get back into the game. I think the score, how it started, it just felt it did for a second felt like yesteryear.
So and also too, we mentioned this. Even I mentioned this to you, Mike. Fans really had high expectations for this week 1 game, really high. And I tweeted it. I'm gonna find the tweet and put it right in here. That I told you these guys are NFL squad. They're gonna play ball. While the world thinks they're tanking, those 53 men on that roster, they not tanking. You know what I'm saying? So they're gonna play ball. Like and they showed up, they made plays, and at times it did like, okay, are we even prepared? Like, are we ready? And then Gibson with the fumble. I was like, man. So I said this about Gibson. I was like, this is the season. This is a show me season for everybody, right? This isn't the season to go back to your old habits. If he wants to truly be a part of this offensive rotation, he has to hold on to the football. Him holding on to the football is paramount, right? But you just look at it like EB is going to demand a whole lot. I think he called a great game for the most part. You just got to get the results. And I think the whole week 1 across the board showed a lot of rust, like with everyone. They had mentioned on TV, they was like, the guys play enough preseason games, because everybody come out flat. Look, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but I think, as the season prolongs, they'll kind of get into what they really are, right? And yeah, go ahead, Mike, please.
No, I was gonna say to the EB stuff too. Like, I think the number one thing people slept on Sunday with EB. Well, I agree with you. He called a great game until the end when they like turtled on that last drive. That I hated. I really wish they would have at least throw some motion in there. They're all lining up, pretty much telling you they're going to run the ball. Give Howell one shot, because if they score a touchdown, it's over. Like, go for the kill shot there, right? But besides that, I think the number one thing people were sleeping on Sunday, no delay of game penalties, no false starts, in and out of the huddle. Like, we heard it, a couple weeks into training camp, how the players were bitching about EB because he was a hard ass. Well, it worked. There were no penalties for the most part. And you know what? I'll take that as a building block any day of the week, because we've seen this offense start slow so many years where they just look sloppy. They did not look sloppy. You can question some of the play calling, some of the actual literal play of the players, but you know what? That's a tight ship that he started to run there, and I'm actually like really encouraged with that type of stuff, because that's the beginning of it, right? Like, you got to do that stuff right if you're going to build upon it. So I think that was the number one thing people kind of slept on, was there were barely any penalties when it came to the offense.
Mike, I'm so glad you said that, right? Because in a game like that, 2016, you have to eliminate stupid penalties.
Yep.
Because you're going to have turnovers. You're going to have things that happen. You're going to have a bad call from a ref. Like, you're going to have that. But in a close game, you have to eliminate the self-inflicted mistakes. So not having any false start lets you know they're focused. Like, hey, they're locked in. They're getting to the line fast. No delay of games. Hey, they got the play. They understand and they're ready to rock. So, and I mentioned it, and even still, I talked to you about this, D-Mitty. Like, my team over the weekend, we had a 6-0 loss, right? But we had bad penalties, false starts, different things like that. In a close game where nothing is working for you, you have to, those are going to be illuminated. You have to get rid of those things. So those are very important. And like you said, Mike, the way EB is running his ship, that's kind of what you want. And I mean, that can only get better as we go along with this season. I want to talk about the defensive line really quick. But before I do that, I want to make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast. Are you subscribed? If you're watching right now, you should be subscribed. Just go ahead, go on down and hit subscribe. But I want to talk about
tell a friend to tell a friend. How about that, bro? Tell him to tell a friend that know a friend that talk to a friend.
Huh? Tell them. And subscribe to the podcast, please. I want to talk about the defensive line. Second half defensive line. They played lights out, right? They played a superb game, and they really, they went in at halftime, and they was like, look, we're some of the best guys in the league, right? They went in and imposed their will. Montez Sweat, looked like a freak of nature. Deron Payne just getting back there, recovering fumbles. Like, those guys really turned it up. And to your point, D-Mitty, you said they started slow. Like, they didn't give up any offensive touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? they played a pretty solid game. So I'm curious. I'll start with you, Mike. What did you think about the defensive line play as a whole? And how's that defensive line going to look once the return of Chase Young happens, whenever that happens?
I definitely got to go A plus plus plus. Whatever the highest grade I can give them, I will. Let me start. I'll start interior first. Payne looked great. He's looked great all of training camp and in preseason. That dude looks bigger and faster, which is always a great sign after you hand them the money in the big contract. John Allen was literally picking dudes up and throwing them out of the club. I mean, that was like my favorite part of the game was Allen. By the way, being there on Sunday, Allen is creeping closer to Terry McLaurin as the most jerseys I see in the crowd, which I love. It tells me our fans are intelligent. You always are a little worried because it's always offense, but Allen and Payne are just, if you can just pencil them in as being all pros every year, what a difference it's going to make. And then it brings me to, I mean, I'll just do it quick here. The defensive ends by committee is what I'll call them by filling in for Chase Young. I thought did a great job. Like, honestly, they cleaned up when they had to. Hill was pretty good. Like, I genuinely enjoyed seeing them fill in by committee. And then going to the other side to Sweat. I mean, we heard Jack Del Rio literally say out loud over the summer, yeah, we'll pay him if he can finish, sacks or flip games or do what you need to do to actually earn a $25 million a year contract. And that's exactly what he did at the end of the game. Forces 2 fumbles, getting in there, getting sacks, getting tackles for losses. There was like 5 straight plays where they were in the backfield. Sweat in a contract year has done exactly what I think we all have been waiting for him to do, and that is dominate and take over games. So A++ all across the board for the defensive line. And look, if Montez Sweat is doing that without Chase Young on the other side, I mean, Chase Young's going to have no excuse when he comes back. Not that I'm, a Chase Young hater by any means, but he needs to prove it to also get the money from this team, and he should have some space if the other 3 guys are playing like they were on Sunday.
No, I agree, man. I think that defensive line really imposed their will. And against a quarterback, an inexperienced quarterback who hasn't done a whole lot, you kind of want to really impose your will. And they did. I'm really curious to see how Chase is going to do once he comes back. The reactions that I've seen from these fans, man, it's in my heart of hearts. I know it's out of love because they want to see what he can do. But if he's hurt, he's hurt. You know what I mean? Like, what are we going to do? And that's a nerve to, like, I caution people to kind of just slow their roll on the Chase hate because he has to get on the field once he get on the field. And then also, they're not paying him. They're not cutting a check. Why does it matter?
Yeah.
I mean,
think about this too. Like, when Terry, what game did Terry get hurt in the preseason? Was it the first game, second game? Someone's got to refresh my memory. Second game. Right away, everybody was like, oh, we don't need him. We don't need him against the Cardinals. Let him rest. Yet when Chase is actually hurt with a stinger, if you ever had a stinger, they suck. They're terrible. Like, you didn't need Chase to beat the Cardinals either. Like, and I know one of them is a beloved fan favorite and would do anything to get a win, but, like, let's be real here. They didn't need him to win. The defense didn't give up a touchdown. The guys filling in for him were great. Like, I don't know. I've tried to take a step back and just say, you know what? Let me judge him when he gets out there on the field. That's the only thing we can all do at this point, Like, and they're going to ask him to do the same thing Montez Sweat does. And that would be flip a game at the end if you want that money at the end of the day. And guess what? Chase has already done that when he's healthy and playing within the system. That is the second part that is very important. But rookie year, Chase Young was a movie. Like, I feel like people forget that. Like, dude flipped games, and I think we're all rooting for that to happen because if this D-line of those 4 are all together, it's impossible to stop. So I'm with you. Like, I think it does come from a place of love, but you know how this fan base gets. They get fickle really fast, and I would just say with Chase, slow your roll. Like, it's all good. Like, we don't need him right now. If he plays in the Broncos game, great, because that's going to be a 12-9 game, and they're going to need him. So, yeah, I'm with you. And it just everyone needs to slow the roll with him.
For sure. D-Mitty, what you think about the D-line, man?
I mean, I just want to kind of segue from what Mike was saying, piggyback, from what he was saying, because to feel as if Chase is already a bust and he hasn't had enough film to put out there, to me is just it to me is a casual take, because with the injury you have to give this young player time to actually put the actual tape out there, for one. Two, he to me this game and the Broncos game, I don't think you need a Chase Young for these particular games. Just like you said, Mike, this is going to be a low scoring affair. This is not going to be. I would be surprised if this game is over, 45 plus as far as points, in my opinion. So when you bring him back against the Buffalo Bills after seeing what they did against the Jets, to me that's going to kickstart your season, going into the to the second quarter of the season, being able to actually put together wins and actually be that defense you need to be. Because for me, not only did Chase Young flip games, he made, like, getting down to the nuance of it, he made plays that weren't on the stat sheet. And that's the reality of why you draft a player like that, number two, because he made the plays that need to be made.
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I want to say this before we get into the Broncos really quick. Um I would like to see the passing game evolve a little more. Terry McLaurin didn't have enough targets. Jahan Dotson didn't have enough targets. Curtis Samuel got some touches. I don't think Diami got any targets. They love going to the tight end. Logan Thomas is like, he's eating, like, oh yeah, give me the ball. But I think we need to see more Cole Turner. I think it's time. I think he's a little more athletic. He's younger. I want to see him a little more. And I think that's something they'll do in the middle of the field. They'll get a lot of 12 personnel, you know what I mean? One back, two tight ends, kind of get them in the field, the balance set. I want to see a little bit more Cole Turner in there, because I think they can really I think he can benefit from this offense greatly, because they are going to go to the tight end. And you saw, like, I don't have it in front of me, but Logan had at least 10 targets, bro. Like, was getting looks. And it was like, he ain't played, all preseason. Now he's just out here, boom, out the box, 10 targets. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I kind of like this offense, the way that it's set up. It's going to be a lot of stuff over the middle of the field. The tight ends are going to get a lot of work. And even, did we see a fullback dive this week? I feel like I saw a fullback dive, like a short yardage. I was like, wow, it's here. I love to see it.
Yeah,
But
but the thing with no, I was just gonna say real quick. The thing with Logan is he's sure-handed. Just simply put, he's sure-handed. When the ball is in his area, when he would play with Heineke, and Heineke was throwing balls out of the catch radius, he made it within his radius.
yeah, no, for sure. Go ahead, Mike. You had something on that?
No, I was just gonna say, in general, I didn't like. I know they were trying to play it safe, right? And I know Howell is not Heineke, but the one thing Heineke did do is he would toss a couple balls up a game where he'd give all those guys a chance. And, like, that's Terry's bread and butter. That's Dotson's bread and butter. Logan, not as much, but when they're in the red zone, that's when you just toss one up to Logan and then he comes down with it, right? So I think with Logan, it's almost like they were using him a little bit differently than we're all used to. And so that's why some have a couple drops. I'm a big believer in him, but I'm with you. Cole Turner's shown flashes here and there, but basically what it all boils down for is, if they're one-on-one, let some of them try to come down with it, because Terry, we've seen it, will rip the ball out of any dude's hands. It doesn't matter what your name is. It doesn't matter if you're a Pro Bowler or someone he's never heard of. He's going after it. And same thing with Dotson. They just need to get they need to get the ball in Dotson's hands, because we've seen that guy has moves, might have the best moves on the team when he gets the ball. So I would just like to see them do a better job of getting the ball in those guys' hands and tossing them one or two up to each of them.
For sure, absolutely. And hopefully in this week 2 matchup against the Denver Broncos, a 425 start in the Mile High City. We're hoping that they can kind of change the tide a little bit with that offense and how they're going to do it. 425 start, guys, in the afternoon. It's going to be a good slate of games for week 2, by the way. Right now, the FanDuel has 62% picking Denver at -180. 38% going with the Commanders at +152. Of course, you know where my money's going. Right on us. And I'll be out there in the Mile High City having a great old time. It's the 20th offense, the 20th ranked Commanders offense going against the 8th ranked Broncos defense, and then the 21st ranked Broncos offense going against the 4th ranked Commanders defense. It should prove to be a good matchup. I mean, did you guys take a look at any of the Broncos Raiders game? from this past week. What you guys think, man? What do you think about our chances, man? Go ahead, Mike.
Honestly, I look at that Broncos offense and unimpressive is the word I use with them. And I know they have a ton of injuries too, though. Like all their skill position guys are hurt. I think they've got 2 wide receivers out. Just saw their tight end got hurt too. Yeah. And let's just say this: Russ can't cook without any ingredients. So I mean, like I'm just saying, the offense is very unimpressive to me. I didn't see enough of a deviation from last year because one thing I think people slept on last year at the Broncos was like they were literally losing games 10-9. Like it was absurd how they were losing games. And it was the same thing against the Raiders, who the Raiders are pretty unimpressive too. And guess what? The Raiders, I don't know how much you guys watched, but Max Crosby was eating in the second half from what I saw. And
He was killing him.
Dude, all I could think of was, wow, if you can't stop that one guy, I'm not saying the Raiders don't have other players, but I'm looking at our defensive line going, you guys better not even have to blitz anybody, and they should be fine. So this turns into one of these, low-scoring games where whoever screws up less is going to win. And it's kind of funny, though. I kind of wish the Broncos would have won because I feel like they're going to feel all the pressure already going into this game, home game. But you could flip it on the other side. If you hold them to a field goal in the first half or a field goal in the first 20 minutes of the game, that crowd's going to get restless, and you can use that to your advantage. But unimpressed is what I'll use with the Broncos offense. Defense, I feel like we're looking at a mirror. I mean, that defense is so impressive, and I like our skill players. We just haven't been able to put it together in the last, year and a half with all of the players that we've got. So, I mean, I like our offense against their defense slightly more than their offense against our defense, but this is going to come down to mistakes. And I love Hal, but he's still a young quarterback, and so you have to hope that he doesn't make the mistake that ends up losing you the game. Because I think under 40 points, as you said, D-Mini, I think that's what's going to happen here. It's going to be low scoring. Whoever screws up less is going to win the game.
I hate to be an echo of Mike, but it just seems like as far as just your outlook on this particular game for the most part, I was saying the same thing to DH, but I do feel like as far as their offense, I will say this. I have respect for their receivers just because I feel like they are route technicians. They might not be the best, catchers and completing the plays, but as far as separating, they can do so. But at the same time, when it goes to the defense, you're right, that it's a mirror of each other, and I feel like that's why it's going to be one of those low scoring games. But I feel like with Sean Payton, how is that matchup as far as the battle of the minds and the chess game against Sean Payton versus Jack Del Rio? How is that going to play out? Because as we can see, there are certain offenses that do certain things against our cover two, or our defense that may break open at a certain point in time. So hopefully Jack is ready and prepared as far as mentally we're putting a game together that keep them guys under 14 points.
Hey, you know what? And for this game, man, I'm gonna have to do this. All summer they was doubting that we was here, and because we already in Colorado, so I'm gonna go with Coach. They got plus money on Denver, but the Commanders are here. We in town. We got dogs. We got leaders. We got Sam Howell, baby. He's him. He's here. We got Montez Sweat, baby. He's a dog. He's a leader. No, I said, hey, no, but seriously, man, I think this is the week that if you're going to have an offensive output, this is the week to have it. I think the run game will be effective. And I think if Sam is, 202 yards this past week. I want to say he only missed about 10 passes. I don't have the that in front of me. He completed 61% of his passes. But I think this is the week where the short stuff is going to work. Terry's targets are going to be up. I think more targets will be to the tight ends. But I think Jahan Dotson might have 4 catches, and 2 touchdowns. You know what I'm saying? Like it might be one of those types of games where somebody's gonna go off. Somebody's gonna have a game. And I think this is where you kind of see the gutsiness of Sam Howell and see how he can overcome, because this defense is gonna be tough, right? This defense is gonna be tough. But I think with Eric Bieniemy at the helm, bro, I feel like they can do a lot, man. And they got the pieces. They have the pieces. But I feel like you're going on the road. go out there and get the dub. And I think they'll be able to do it, man. I think they'll be able to. I'm not sold on the Broncos. Russell Wilson, like you said, I mean, they don't score enough points. So at the end of the day, 100 out of 100 times, when a team scores more points than the other team, they win. You know, ain't no Scott Steiner math here, baby. It ain't none of that. It's 100 out of 100 that if I score more points than you, we're going to win. And I think if they score more points than them, which is a wild thing, if they score more points than them, they'll win the game.
Man, let me just say this, bro. Y'all have reminded me like twice, like why I don't bet, because bringing up that Sam Howell stat just really crushed me. Because I showed you the text, DH.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole Jahan, you said it earlier, something to the tune, Mike, about like going to Jahan and open up the pass and later in the game. And all I needed was for Jahan to have just 5 more yards, and I like they just they just went conservative on me for fantasy. For fantasy aspect, I did need a one teddy from Jahan, but you know what? That's all right. I still won by a few points. But all that to say, don't gamble, kids.
And adults gamble. Go ahead, Mike.
I would remiss not to be mentioning it this far into the podcast, but Cam Curl had an amazing game
Amazing.
on Sunday, and I almost feel like Cam, as Stephen A would say, is a bad man.
Yeah.
And I think a guy like that, a player like that, looks across and sees Russ. I mean, that's like blood in the water as far as I'm concerned. And so, like, if I had to pick a player to be an X factor to win this game, to make a big play, the defensive line they're going to be aware of. Peyton can scheme it up with the best of anybody. Like, maybe you don't like Russ, but I trust Peyton enough that he's going to be able to do something to tilt the defensive line just a little bit. And I look for Cam. Cam is going to be the guy that is probably going to flip this game for us if there's a defensive player that does it, because I took one look at that dude on Sunday. I was like, that's a guy playing for a contract that wants to get paid right now. And like we heard about today, the Leno move where they save some cap room. I was like, oh, that's going to Cam. Like right away, my mind was like, they're using that to sign somebody, and it should be for Cam Curl. But I look at him, and I just think he had such a good game week 1. If he can build on that in week 2, he's going to make a big play to end up helping him win the game.
I want Forbes to get a pick this week. That route at the end of the game, he ran that route for that guy.
Yep.
And it looked so effortless. Like when I saw it, I was like, he ran it, undercut it perfect, and had it right there. I think Forbes gets one this week. And I'll say this, Jamison Crowder, thank you, my brother, for and this is no Dax Mills slander, none. But it's more or less the I'm happy that we got, because it felt like he might would have took one to the house. He just got that quick twitch, he gets it, and he's always looking to go upfield. Right. He's officially signed to the 53. So he's fully activated. He's ready to rock. He looks like he will be the primary return man. So I think we might get something in the special teams game this week. Overall, we just got to get a dub. Regardless of how it looks, like I said earlier, the ugly ones count as well. We got to get them. But I feel like if we could get a good, clean game of offense, Eric Bieniemy can kind of show what he has. This might change the narrative. And people are already kind of, pumping Sam Howell. They kind of sold on him, a little bit, like where they're actually looking at him like, hey, this guy got it. So we'll see, man, this week. Any thoughts before we get out of here, man? I ain't gonna hold you too much longer. But anything, Mike, before we get out of here, man, I want to tell everybody, of course, make sure you're listening to ESPN 630 with Mike and Bram, Monday through Friday on 3 to 6. Am I not mistaken?
Yep. You got it.
On the app as well. And Mike, give that app for everybody, man, so they can download it, man.
So if you're in the area, 6:30 a.m. always work. Well, I should say sometimes works. If not, get the ESPN 630 app, or you can listen to us on our website, ESPN630dc.com or sportscapitaldc.com. I think I got all those right. Just Google ESPN 630 and all that stuff.
I got it.
Come up. But
they need to get it.
As I always say too, our Friday shows, we get John Keim on. He and Bram go for 25 minutes, breaking everything down with the game. And then Bram is the voice of the team. Therefore, Bram talks to people. He knows what is being planned, what the game plans, plural, are going to be. And if you listen to the show, you can read in between the lines of what is pretty much going to happen each week. It is the best show that we do on Fridays. But, of course, we're very entertaining 5 days of the week. But, yes, please listen anytime you can.
Hey,
Absolutely.
Mike, Paul I got when he does it's college football, bruh. I laugh so hard.
So you're in on it. You like
Yes,
it then.
I
All
love
right.
it.
Because we're torn on that. I hate it. Bram loves it. And so we come to blows on that piece of content that we do. So I'm just saying.
He does a very good deep South accent. Tell him I said good.
We'll do. We'll do.
Before we get out of here.
Agree. Nothing, man. I want to say thank you, Mike. I want to say I appreciate you, man. It's always a pleasure. Just feel like barbershop talk whenever when we link up, man. And to my illustrious host and dear friend and the world's greatest impersonator, I thank you.
Oh, but thank you, player. I'm here. Nah. But for Mike Callow, for my partner in crime, Darren, aka D Mitty, it's your man DH. And I want to thank you for tuning into another episode of Breaking Command, a D&D football podcast. Of course, make sure you like, subscribe, share with a friend, and we'll be back next week with another episode of Breaking Command, a D&D football podcast, man. Peace and love. Y'all be safe. I see you in the Maha City.
Stay off the weed.